right. Hello, everyone. So let me give people a little bit to pop in. I can see people starting to show up in the attendance list. So I'll give you guys a second, and you can look at my lovely introduction screen while I wait a couple seconds. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Python, and we're going to start our coding journey from the beginning. So this is designed for people who have not coded before and maybe are a little bit nervous about it or unsure how to start, and also specifically to people interested in data science. So I'm going to present how we might use Python from a data science perspective. Okay, so here's our learning goals. First, we want to talk a little bit about coding environments, because in order to write some code, we're going to have to figure out, we need an environment to write the code in. And then I'm going to talk about different types of Python variables. We're going to do a little bit of math, because that'll help us set up our exposure to NumPy, which is a Python library that lets us make use of math functions and make different cool things that are useful to us as data scientists. And then matplotlib lets us make graphs. And you know what makes a pretty good graph? Math functions. And so instead of importing data, we're going to try to graph some math functions at the end. And so that's going to be our goal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break up each of these sections with a 5-minute coding lab. So I'm going to lecture for a little bit, and then we're going to code together. So I'll be coding on my screen because I think it's important to see the coding mindset of making mistakes and making typos, and instead of just talking about the code, to actually show what it looks like and show how it runs. So then I will break it up with a 5-minute lab. During that time, I'll look in chat, I'll answer any questions that anyone has, and then hopefully you all will be willing to post your best tries at the lab in chat, and then we'll talk over them for a second, and we'll keep going, learn the next thing, have a lab, learn the next thing, with the goal of eventually each different person in the call will make their own graph, which we as data scientists are pretty into. So who am I? I graduated Agnes Scott College last year with my bachelor's in math. I'm a graduate student at the same college, and I will be graduating very soon with my master's in data analysis and communication. I have worked as a teaching assistant at Agnes Scott College and Upper Line Code. So I taught high schoolers how to code, and I taught college students how to do code and math. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I use they, them pronouns. So let's get into the coding environment. What's the best one? Well, here's just for your exposure. So when you're searching later, you'll be familiar with the symbols and the logos. Here are some very common ones that are utilized when we're talking about coding in Python. In our case, because we are data science-y, we're going to use Jupyter, and specifically Jupyter Notebook. And the thing that's super cool about Jupyter Notebook is that it allows us to run our code as individual blocks. So we might be able to say, import our data, run that once, and then as we are making a graph, we could mess up and then run just the graph, try to fix the graph, run it again, try to fix the graph, run it again, without having to go through that computer processing intensive step of running the import multiple times. And it also allows us to put text in there so that you could explain your graph or explain why you did certain Python functions. And so specifically, we're going to be using, and hopefully it works, I've only been able to get it to work on Firefox, but there is a Jupyter Lite, which is a Jupyter notebook that works in browser. And that way nobody has to download anything, and nobody has to download any software that they might not need if it turns out maybe Python's not your thing. If you wanted to download software and use Jupyter Notebook, you would go to Anaconda. And so as soon as I will it's live coding time. So let me exit out of my presentation and let me send you the link to the websites. So if Let me make sure that I'm sending this to everyone. Okay, so if you want to download it, you could go to the first link, which is Anaconda. If you want to work in browser, which is what I'm going to be doing, so hopefully we're on the same wavelength. It's the Jupyter Light link. Okay, so here is my Jupyter Light notebook, and this is the introduction page. And so what I'm going to want to do in order to start our coding journey is I'm going to go new. I'm going to do notebook, and then it's going to ask me what kernel, and I want to code in Python. So I'm going to be like, yep, Python, and I'm going to select that, and I'm going to click out of the welcome tours, and hopefully this works. It may not, in which case I have backup plans, but so I'm going to try to write in Markdown, and I'm going to say, what is a string? And let me see. Okay, so it lets me do that, and let me see. So in our case, a string is a series of characters. So I could type, hello, I am a string. That's it. Python's like, yep, that's a string. It just returns exactly what I typed. And so for usually what you want to do is you type print. So you would print hello world, and this is going to print out hello world. Whereas in this case, it just it includes the brackets because it's indicating it's naming that it's a string. But in our case, it just wants to print out hello world. Sweet. Okay. But oh my gosh, guys, I have to type out hello world every time I want to print it. If only there were some way that we could store it so that I don't have to type out hello world every time. So there is, Python has variables. So I would type string 1 is equal to hello world. And then you can see when I run this, and by the way, sorry, I realized that I'm using hotkeys, and you guys don't know about hotkeys. So what I'm doing is I hit shift return to run the code, and this is the run the selected cells and advance button. So Eric, to answer your question, the reason that I work with in an IDE when I actually need to code Python, and the reason that I'm using Jupyter Light is because there is no download required, and I want to make this super easy and accessible for all the people who might be new to Python. I hope that explains a bit about why I'm using Jupyter Light today. Okay, so I have my string. It says hello world, but it didn't print it out. What are we going to do? So now we can return to our print function, and I can call back to my string by saying print string 1. And now it prints hello world. It doesn't print out the word string 1, it prints hello world, which is exactly what we want. But, oh no, what if I made a mistake in my string and I need to make a change to it without typing it out again? We would have to use something called a string method. So in this case, I'm going to go to my old handy dandy website, W3 Schools. And I'll paste it in here, and I'll paste it in chat. And this is a list of all the methods in Python that you can use specifically to do something with a string. Okay, so I didn't mean to capitalize hello world. I want to make it lowercase. So looks like I can use this case fold method. And it looks like we do the text dot case fold, and that should make the changes we need. Okay, so I'm going to do string 1 dot case fold. And also I realize I type super fast sometimes, so totally let me know if I'm typing too fast. And what we can do is we can call the print function, and we can put it both in parentheses. We can put it in parentheses, and then we do one step, and we print it out, and it says hello world. And look, it's lowercase. Very exciting things. So if I had like a super duper long string and I didn't want to manually type out all this whole string again with lowercase letters, I could just type dot casefold. And then I could also I can split the string up. So in this case, it's going to split it into things called lists. This is a little preview for what we'll do in like 10 minutes. But I can use the split function. And I'm going to leave my brackets empty because I don't really care what it's splitting on. And this is going to split it into a list of words. The first word is hello, and the second is world, exclamation point. It assumes, because I didn't put anything in my little brackets here, that I'm splitting it up on the space. But let's say you'll notice that I didn't redefine the string using these string methods. I'm just applying the string methods. So hello world has stayed the same, which is why this is capital again, because this is still string 1 hello world. I'm just printing out and we're testing. But I could put in the character L and then hit Shift Enter, and it would split it up, and it eats the L's, and it goes and it splits it up into HE empty, O world were, and then D exclamation point. And so and we'll see a little bit more about what we can use with lists. If I wanted to redefine string 1, I could do it's a neat thing in Python that might be counterintuitive if you're used to doing math. I found it confusing at first. I could do string 1 dot casefold. And this would redefine our original string to be that string with the casefold method applied. And then that's run, and I'll print string 1. And look, it's lowercase. But if I come back here and I run this again, now this is the 10th step I've run. And if I go back to printing it down here, it's back to uppercase. And so this shows us that the order in which we run things in Jupyter Notebook does affect the what variables are. And so let's continue on to our first 5-minute lab. I will change this from code to Markdown so we can 5-minute lab number 1. And my challenge for you all is to make let's jump into Python all lowercase, all capital, replace the lowercase t's with uppercase t's, and then remove all of the spaces. And you can. And so that's my challenge to you, and I'll type my challenge to you in chat. And I'm going to set a 5-minute timer, and I'll keep an eye on chat, and then we're going to look over. I have my own answer, but like with many things in programming, there's almost certainly more than one answer. So here's our timer. I'll do an online stop. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I will, let's get coding. Okay, we've got about 30 seconds left. So if people want to start posting in chat, I've seen a few answers. But here's my 15-second warning. You're welcome to chat them to me directly or to chat them to everyone. Okay, so our timer's up. Let's get into the answers to our 5-minute lab. Okay, so I see an answer message directly to me from Chunpreet, and it says, okay, Zoom's not going to let me copy and paste. That's okay. It says string 2 equals let's jump into Python, and then print string 2 dot casefold. Nice, it's lowercase. Did anyone give a shot to the all caps, replace the T's with uppercase T's or remove the spaces. We can go over the answers. I can also go back and talk a little bit. We can stay on string methods a little bit if I've gone too fast. Let me know if you guys are here and your comfort level, I want to make sure that this is interesting and valuable for you. So if I'm going too slow and you want me to skip this lab, it's boring, I can do that. If I'm going too fast and you don't know how to approach this lab, I can slow it down. But I want to make sure that I am making things valuable for you all. So please give me feedback and let me know how I can, your preference. Okay. Thank you, Claire. And then please feel free to use the chat function or give me your answers in the Q&A box if that's easier for you. So I will review the answers to this particular problem. And or at least my answer. So what I did was print string to totally correct. That's exactly what I did on the first one, by the way, Chumfreet. So great job. Thank you so much for participating. So I did title is the method for this one. And I added extra parentheses for no reason. Okay, and now it's uppercase. Very exciting. And interestingly enough, it's going to uppercase this S. So if we don't want that, we would have to find a different way to do it. And then I can use the string method replace to replace T with capital T. And then it capitalizes it. And then I can delete the spaces by using replace again. Do you guys have any idea what I might put here instead of lowercase t and uppercase T in order to get rid of the spaces? Any suggestions? Any guesses? Nice. Thank you. So Tomas messaged me directly to say replace with a space and then with two so quotes and then a space and then quotes and then two quotes right together. And I forgot an extra parentheses. Oh, and I forgot to spell print right. That's a key element to printing something. So yeah, there you go. Perfect. Thank you so much for participating. Okay, so now we're on to our next thing, which is we're going to talk about integers and floats. It's numbers time. So let me type this in Markdown, make a nice little title for us. Okay, so I could print the number 7. And I notice I didn't put any quotes there. How mysterious. That's because this actually represents the literal value of 7 things. Python understands this to be the number 7. Or I could print 7.0, which interestingly enough, it keeps the 0. And that's because it considers this, when you add a decimal place, it considers it a different type of variable. So instead of being an integer, which is only going to take like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or -1, -2, this can take any decimal place. And so it's super, super smart. And it can understand different types of variables. So I want your guesses. I'm going to print the following thing, or I'm just going to type it into my console because my block. No, I've messed this one up. Okay, ignore that. Pretend you didn't see it. I'm so used to auto pressing Shift Enter instead of just enter. So I have 7 + 7 with the quotes, and then I'm going to press enter. Okay, good. And then I have 7 + 7. What do you guys think? And I'll put some prints around it to make sure that actually does what I want it to. What do you guys type in the chat what you think this is going to give me? Can you guess what? Can you give me any idea what the difference between 7 + 7 and 7 + 7? Okay, nice. And please feel free to change it from chatting to hosts and panelists to chatting to everyone. so that we can all see each other. So 77 and 14 is the answer that I got. And let's see if Python wants to let me do that. Yes, it does. Exactly. So it adds the character 7 and the character 7. It concatenates them like the concatenate function in Excel with the first one. And in the second one, it understands that 7 has the value of 7. And so when I add it together, it produces 14. And so this is our important lesson. And so we have some operations. So let's say, so that we can get towards building our neat graphs. We're going to talk briefly about operations. Okay, so I have, and I'll type this out, x equals 7, y equals, okay, and I use x and y because I'm a mathematician, but you're welcome to use variables that make more sense to you. And then y is 4, and then I would like to print out x plus y. No, that's not even y, that's the number 7. I would then like to print x minus y, x star y, x star y, x 1 slash y, x 2 slashes y. Ooh, that's a great question. Joao just messaged me, what about 7 in quotes plus 7? And so let me add a new one in and see what that does. And thank you for asking a question. Let's see what this does. Oh, it's upset. It's trying to concatenate two things that are different. And so Python gets upset because it's giving us this type error, and errors are super helpful, nothing to be afraid of. They let us know what's going wrong. And so it says can only concatenate string, not integer to string. So it's trying to add 7 values to the character 7. And it's like, what? This is apples and oranges. I don't understand this. And so that's why it doesn't work. Okay, and let me continue on. Thank you for the question, Joe. And then I have x division symbol y, and then I'm gonna make you play my guessing game again. And let me put this closer to the middle of the screen. Do you guys have any guesses as to what these plus, minus, star, 2 stars, division symbol, 2 division symbols, another division symbol, what might those mean? And it's totally okay to be wrong. I'm trying to keep engaged. So if anyone wants to give these a shot, you could type in order like plus, minus, or subtraction, division, whatever you think it is. And I can hit enter on this to give you a little hint. Amazing. Thank you for participating. Thank you all. Okay. So Joao also messaged me directly to say, I think everyone can see Namacha's message. But so 11, 3, 28, 7 to the power of 4, 7 divided by 4, and then they're like, what is this? And then modulo, so 7 modulo division 4. So this is the secret one here is floor division. So it's going to turn any two, we could put some floats in there and it'll turn it into an integer, which is super neat for us. We love floor division. If you needed something that only took integers, like maybe your data had some weird, messy, extra integers on it, some floats in there when it needed to only be integers, this is how you would get rid of it. And then this is modulo division. So it's going to produce the remainder of, I think 7 divided by 4. That should have, yes, that has a remainder of 3. And so there's a lot of weird, neat things that you can use remainder division for, or modulo division. So as a mathematician, I couldn't, ethically not include it. Okay, so The next thing we're going to talk about, now that we have our operations, so we might be ready to use those to make some graphs later. We can come back to this up here, our lists. So we are going to do Markdown and we're going to do lists. And so lists are like a grocery list of things. And so I could have, we could use split again. So this is giving us a grocery list where our list is hello, which is a string, and then world, which is also a string. And I could also have a list that has 1, 2, 3.24. Oh, I forgot to close my little brackets there. That's like not brackets, quotation mark. That's key. 3, x plus y. This is a list. And it'll do automatically the thing in it. And we can see that there's multiple different types of variables in there. And so this is very exciting. I can define this as list 1 equals, and then I can index my list. So I can say, I can put my little brackets here and I can go 0 and we index from 0. So this is going to produce, oh, I should have used that as a question. I should have asked you if we index from 0, but that's okay. I gave it away. So when we type in 0, it's going to bring us the first element. And then we type list 1, and that'll bring us the second element. And so if we want to add something, I could do list 1 dot append 83. And then I would run this and it doesn't do anything. And so we got to check by printing list 1. And there we see 83 has been added to the end. And so I didn't even have to type list 1 equals append. When I run that, it just changes the list. So, but because remember before when we wanted to change our string, we had to say our new x is equal to the previous x plus some stuff done to it. But in this case, if I use append, it changes my list. Okay, but oops, I actually didn't want 84 on there. So I could go list 1 dot remove. And then I would remove the 6th, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So oh no, I can remove directly. I don't need to count. I remove directly 83. And that should do it. And then let's go back and let's print list 1. And it's gone. It's very exciting. I can also change something. I can change I'll change the first element. I can change this so I can make it equal to 32. Oh yeah, that's the key. I have to actually type the name of the variable. And then I print my list 1 again. And then now it's 32. And then I could also change this to list 1, 0 plus 23. And then I print my list again. And now it's been changed. It's 54 because I've redefined the first element in the list to be the current first element in the list plus 23. And so that will become the new first element in the list. Okay, and it's time for our second 5-minute lab. So my challenge to you this time, and let me add a bunch of extra blocks so we can get that in the middle of the screen, is can you figure out how to add 3 to every element in y equals 1, 2, 3 by changing one element of y at a time? So instead of typing y equals 4, 5, 6, how can we do this in Python? And this is going to be, for those people who are familiar with programming, is going to be a little inefficient to do it this way because we haven't learned any way to do this in a nice, clean, easy way. So right now, we're just going to try to figure out how to add the number 3 to every element in the list y equals 1, 2, 3. And I will set my 5-minute timer and give you guys a chance to work on that. And let me know if you prefer me to keep the screen on the timer or to keep the screen on my notebook. Okay, that's about a 10-second warning. I have 2 answers in so far, but I would love to see more folks give it a shot. Okay, so I have 3 answers, which is super exciting. So I have Chunpreet again, which gives us, won't let me copy. Okay, y equals 1, 2, 3. And then y 0. Okay, that's the same as my answer, so I will speed our lives up by copying in my answer. And then print y, and there we go. And then we also have one participant gave us a y0 dot replace equals 3. It looks like the integer object can't have the replace function, and so it's going to be upset about that. But I realize that I'm running a little slow on time, so I'm going to start getting through stuff. And so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to talk briefly about how to make, this was super tedious having to type this out. If only we could make our lives a little easier. So we can iterate. And so a for loop is basically for x in range 0. So it does the same thing over a bunch of times. And so we use loops when we know how many times we want the loops to repeat, and we use a while loop when we want to know what condition we want to be true when it repeats, but not how long it'll take. So in this case, let me update this to say for and while loops, because this is probably pretty important for you to know, or at least be familiar with. And so for x in range 10, print x. And we're just going to super briefly go over this. Ooh, oh, I put x in range 0. That's why it didn't work. Okay, and you can see it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so the range of 10 is a range from, it's going to assume that I want to start at 0 because we index at 0. So it's going to go 0 to 9. And then if I wanted to do a while loop, I would do y equals 1, and I would not immediately hit enter. And while y is less than 10, and the tab is really important here. Python won't actually work if I don't tab that in properly. Print y. So I want to show what loop we're on, and then I want to redefine y to be equal to the previous y plus 1. And so that's going to print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then as soon as y becomes greater than, is no longer less than 10, it stops repeating. And then the last thing is that you can do while loops over lists. So I could go to the grocery store and I would like to buy, I would like to type my brackets. I would like to write eggs. I would like to have milk. I would like to have soup. And then in this case, so basically x becomes, in this case, x becomes 1, then x becomes 2, then x becomes 3, then x becomes 4, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, we're going to do 4x in grocery instead of range 10, print x. And so it's going to go through once. The first time x will be eggs, the second time x will become milk, the third time x will become soup, and then it prints it every time. And if I were to tab this out, it might be upset because, okay, yeah, it's upset because I have an empty for loop. So I could do y equals 1, which doesn't really do anything, but makes it so there's something in the for loop. And then it's going to print the last x because it's gone through setting x equal to a bunch of different things. And then it'll print the last x if we don't tab it out properly. If we do hit tab, then it does it back again. Okay. And so let's see, do we have time for a quick, I'm going to make this a 2-minute lab. Okay. So challenge, super quick because I think it's important that you know for loops, but I know it's not super necessarily related to data science and we don't have too much time left. So my 2-minute challenge to you is, can you do the same problem we did before? So can you figure out how to add 3 to every element in y equals, who am I forgetting how to format things? So this is 5-minute lab 3, I think. Maybe it's 4. That's not code. That should be marked down. Thank you. Okay, can you figure out how to add 3 to every element in y equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 without changing without typing y equals 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the same problem we did before, but can you utilize that with a for loop? And so super quickly, give it a go. Okay, actually, I'm going to make this challenge because we have not too much time left. So the first person who can get me the answer, that would be much appreciated. Like go as fast as we can, and we'll stop once one person gets me their shot at this problem. Okay, nice. Champreet has messaged me and they say y equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then for I in y. Oh, miss 11. Okay, I see. For I in y, print I plus 3. Okay, let's see. Nice. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What we also could do is print y equals y plus 3. Or let me think about my life for a moment. Okay, so we could do y of I equals y of I plus 3. And then this is weird. I like the way that you've done it better here. We could do range y. We can't do range y. Oh no, we have to. The list object cannot be interpreted as an integer. Oh, so we would do range 10, and then we would print. So this is a different way to do it while keeping the list. But your way works perfectly reasonably as well and makes a lot of sense. Okay, and so now we're going to learn super quickly about NumPy so we can basically get the sign function. So the first thing we have to do is that not everyone needs the sign function, tragically, so they don't build it directly into Python because they want to, decrease the amount of stuff you have to have in there and make the file size small. So I'm going to do import NumPy as MP. And I'm going to run that. And it's going to take a second. And you can see because it's kind of adding a big file in there. And then anytime I need to call NumPy, I add it NP. And so in our case, we need a range. And then we need a range 10. Oh, is this because, yeah, it's because I don't know how to spell. Key data scientist problem here that I'm having. So I don't know how to spell. Okay, and this is going to make what looks like a list that goes from 0 to 9. But in this case, it's different from a list because it can only take one kind of thing. And also, more importantly, we can add directly to it. So z equals numpy.arrange 10. And then z equals z plus 3. And then print z. Look at that. It just adds directly to it. So now we can circumvent this problem of adding things over and over again. So if we wanted to make a graph and say adjust our axis by 1, we've just add +1, and we don't need to get into all this other stuff. And we can also do things like numpy.sign 10. And this will give us the sign of 10. And so lastly, so we can have our, okay, my 2-minute challenge. I'll take the first answer for this one because we'll use it for a graph. So I need you to make a, generate one array with the values 1 through 50, and another array that takes the sign of 1 through 50. And then we're going to graph this. And it's going to be super exciting. So my challenge to you is to do that, and I'll take the first answer on that one. Okay, so let me give a small hint. We want x equals and we want y equals. And y is going to depend on x. So I might do numpy dot sign of x. Can anyone give me what my x should be? Amazing. Okay. Johnpreet has messaged me numpy dot arrange 1 to 51. Print x. And then I also want to print y. Print y. Amazing. There we go. Okay. And now with our last 5 minutes, we're going to give you a taste of graphing. And so this is called matplotlib library. And it lets you make plots. Okay. So we're going to add a bunch of extras in there. Okay. So I want to import, I'm going to copy this in and I will copy that into chat for you. So we want to import matplotlib as plt.pyplot. So, and that way we don't have to type out this entire thing every time. We just have to type plt. Okay, and then we have our x and our y. So we want to copy this in here. And then we want to do plt dot plot x comma y. Oh my gosh, we have a graph. Okay, super exciting stuff. It kind of looks a little funky. Oh no. Why isn't it graphing our sign quite right? And that's because it is graphing it in, we could look this up and check the function, but I will let you know that the function is in radians. So we are going to convert from radians to degrees by dividing by 180 and multiplying by pi. This is me being a little mathematician. Okay, and then we have this weird little smooth line. What's up with that? That's super weird. Oh, it's because we're taking the first degree to the 50th degree. That's a really small amount to graph for a sine curve. So we're going to make this 51,000, or, well, let's do 500. Let's see how 500 is. And now we get to see those neat sine curves that we know and we love very much. Okay, and then let's say I want to put a label on here. So then I would do plt dot x label, and I would label x time, and I would do plt dot y label, and I would do frequency, and then I would do, see how that looks. Okay, neat. We have time and frequency on there. This is so exciting. And then I could do, I could change the ticks to plot ticks. This changes the, I could plot the y ticks because maybe I don't want it to go between 1 and 0. Maybe I want it to go between -2 and +2. And then I would do numpy dot arrange -2 and +2. And this would change our graph. Oh, x ticks, I'm missing an s. And this would change our graph to make this smaller. And then lastly, I could change this to color equals B, which should change it to a darker blue, the line. And so I encourage you to, let me find W3 Schools link for, okay. I would encourage you to give graphing any mathematical function a shot. If in the last 2 minutes while I'm doing my outro, you want to send me your graph in chat, I will put it up on the screen for us all to look at. I would encourage you to graph, you could graph X and Y. You could graph any mathematical functions. If you wanted to try something more challenging, you could go through the NumPy documentation. And then so I wanted to give you further learning. So there are so many great coding resources. I really have been getting a kick out of PacketPub. I also YouTube Coursera, and there is a Harvard link that I'm going to send you as well. And so there's so many other great resources out there for learning how to code. I really encourage you guys to do it. If you had fun today, if you liked making a graph and learning about Python, please also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for attending this talk. If anyone wants to, in the last minute, give me their graph, that would be super fun. But no worries if not. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And I will sit here in the hopes that maybe there will be one graph for me to show. Okay, it looks like it's 3:15. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you. Let me end the meeting and webinar for all. Bye-bye.